But the first two slides were supposed to show you where I started out, which was as a lover of the Sinclair Spectrum computer, which some of you will remember. Your wristwatches now probably have more computing power than the first one that I started out with had. The Sinclair Spectrum had 48K of memory. I used it to write games, which I named after girls that I liked, which as a strategy is not one that I would recommend anyone pursue, certainly not in the 1980s anyway, right? I mean, game developers are kind of cool nowadays, but not so much then. Subsequently, I became a journalist. I worked for News Talk on a show called Off the Ball, which some of you may have heard of in the news this week. So I left Off the Ball before it was cool to leave Off the Ball. Went and worked for RTE for a couple of years, and then got involved in startup world and digital world. So Farmville, which you can see here behind me, is a project that myself and a couple of friends of mine started a few years ago, which was, how many people here, and be honest, right, because I'll know, how many people here played Farmville? If we all closed our eyes and put our hands up, would more people be honest, right? I mean, because, right, I mean, I'll tell you. So Farmville was this very annoying game that allowed you to plant crops, harvest crops, and do all sorts of various different things on a virtual farm on Facebook. And it posted all of these very spammy updates to your Facebook wall and to your friend's Facebook wall. So we got really pissed off with it. And we built this thing called Farmville, which was a total satire on it, which allowed you to salt the earth on your friend's farm. You could give them mad cow disease, which is what you can see here. You could burn down their barns. You could put strip clubs in their barns. You do all these kind of different things that were obviously not necessarily Zynga approved. The company ended up getting bought out by GameStop, who are a big American company, which was amazing until we realized that GameStop is run by very right-wing Christians in Texas who didn't quite share our sense of humor about mad cow disease, strippers, and various other things, which was a lesson learned. We also got a legal threat from Chuck Norris. Two legal threats in my life. Urban Outfitters, not so cool. Chuck Norris takes his image very seriously, it turns out. So do be careful. And as the phrase goes, right, don't fuck with Chuck. So that is the phrase, right? And Apple's PR people will actually tell you that if you do. I subsequently went and worked at Keep, and this is what they do.
To have rewards be a part of your everyday life was something that we really truly wanted to do since the beginning here at Keep.
You like to feel appreciated. With Keep and the Keep Reward, you get that feeling back. You get rewarded for being good at what you do.
Keep allowed us to create a stream of revenue that's based entirely on rewarding the players. These achievement moments, or these moments that are already rewarding, and it's ratcheted that up.
These everyday victories, these moments, they're everywhere. We wanted to reward everyday life, and Keep finally enables us to do just that.
Right, so least stereotypical games developer in history, obviously just there. And also you'll see that some of my former colleagues are never going to make it in Hollywood either. But Keep does a very simple thing, which is rewards you for achievements in games and apps. So if you complete a level in a game, complete a workout and get a new personal best, you could get a coffee from Starbucks, you could get a free can of Pepsi from someone. And I still work with them as an advisor on all of their international expansion. So that kind of leads us nicely into the idea of happiness, which is what I'm here to talk to you about. And how many people, and be honest again, because I'll probably know, how many people thought this was going to be some shitty ephemeral like Silicon Valley talk of like, oh my God, it's amazing to be happy. Okay, so there's like 4 honest people in here. That's good, right? So it shouldn't be an, oh my God, we should be happy like Tony Robbins' motivational piece. But we can firewalk later on if you want. So happiness is a big deal, right? I think we can all accept that. As humans, it's something that we haven't necessarily been doing right for quite a long time. So this is a graph of Twitter sentiment over about a 3.5-year period from 2008, showing basically happiness sentiment declining over a period of time. Now, there are spikes where the amount of happiness goes up around Christmas time when bin Laden was killed, right, because fuck yeah, America, and a whole bunch of other things that happened that made people happy, and a lot of things that happened that made people sad. But on a general trend, we're getting less and less happy, right? And this is something that has been going on for a very, very long time. So this is statistical data from the US Census, where they ask people really kind of qualitative questions around how they feel, how they are feeling in general, what their kind of level of happiness is. And as you can see, over a very lengthy period of time, from the kind of 60s, 70s onwards, we've been getting less and less happy. And there's a lot of people who posit theories about why this is happening, one of whom is a guy called Robert Putnam. Has anyone ever read this book? They say people should take, I think it's either 3 or 5 things from a talk that you give, right? This is one. It's a really good book. He wrote it called Bowling Alone. The title is based around the idea that in the 50s and 60s, when people went out in America and in various different places around the world to socialize, they went out in groups. They bowled as part of a team, they bowled as part of a league, and they were social, interacting with one another, having fun, laughing, doing all of these different things. The predominant way that people bowl in bowling alleys in America nowadays is alone, right? So we're more and less connected in the sense that we all have the kind of Dunbar number of friends, right? 150 friends on Facebook, a couple of hundred or a couple of thousand followers on Twitter who we have these relationships with, which may be meaningful or may be meaningless, but actually the kind of physical interaction that we have with people on a day-to-day basis doesn't happen to the same extent that it did in the past. There are pros and cons to it, but it turns out that actually the more people spend time with one another, the happier that they are. We're also getting more and more scared and more worried. So a question, who knows where this quote comes from? You get a prize, right? There's rewards for everyone in the audience, right? This is truly interactive. Happiness comes to the stage. So my name is Inigo Montoya. You killed my father, prepare to die is a quote from The Princess Bride. Second thing you should remember, watch the movie, it's amazing. This is a guy who got on wearing this t-shirt onto a flight in Australia to fly to New Zealand not so long ago and was turfed off the flight. Why do you think he was turfed off the flight? Because it said prepare to die on his t-shirt. Right? And this is the level of fear that as a society we now have engendered in us. So if anyone watched, there was a brilliant BBC documentary series about 10 years ago called The Power of Nightmares, which was all about how governments and various different people are conspiring to make us more fearful. And it's not kind of tinfoil hat X-Files center. Actually, people are getting generally more and more scared of doing very, very basic things. And there's a reason as well around the media and what we're being told on an ongoing basis is happening in the world and why we should be sad about it and why we should be upset. Because the headlines in most newspapers, with the greatest of respect to anyone from a newspaper who's here, are generally kind of quite negative, unless they're a certain media group which has been told to have 30% more positive news in there. So people will know who this guy is, right? The Joker from the Batman movies, whose quote, of course, is, "Why so serious?" Because we have all of these amazing tools at our disposal nowadays, whether it's this device or an iPad, desktop computers, laptops, game consoles, all of these kind of different things that exist to entertain us and keep us happy and keep us engaged, right? And this is one of my favorite quotes that I've ever seen about social and mobile, right? And a cheesy transition as well. I can't resist them. This is a guy from Red Bull who said a couple of years ago, people use online and social channels to waste time. So why don't we give them some cool stuff to do when they're there, right? And I mean, we all know this, right? We've all gone onto Facebook. We've all played games down the back. I've sat in meetings and spoke at conferences like this where you can see, right? People have a very specific hand movement that they do when they're pulling a bird back to fling it at a load of pigs, right? Or you can see people, like when they're trying to, when I spoke at this last year, it was Draw Something, right? Draw Something was this huge game, its sale to Zynga, which has now kind of disappeared. But you could see people drawing and rubbing things out, and now people guessing songs on Song Pop and playing words with friends. So people are looking for ways to spend their time, be engaged, and be made feel a little bit happy, right? So I don't know if anyone uses Reddit. Third thing you should remember, how many people use Reddit? More of you should use Reddit. 3 things to remember. This is Sudden Clarity Clarence, who has a moment of clarity in a nightclub, and this is a meme for those of you who don't know what it is. Occasionally, Sudden Clarity Clarence has these revelations which people put up on Reddit, and it's quite amusing. So in this case, obviously, I've created it saying that happiness matters. Not everyone agrees. Does anyone know who this is? Shout it out. There's more Glacier mints that I borrowed from upstairs. Right, it's Sigmund Freud. I didn't hear anyone say it, so sorry, but you come up and collect it afterwards. Sigmund Freud didn't agree that we should be happy, right? So the intention that we should be happy is not included in the plan of creation, so boo to Sigmund Freud. However, Sigmund Freud also came out with some great things, precursor of the Beyonce song, One is Crazy When in Love. Also, time spent with cats is never wasted, which, as anyone who has ever gone onto Reddit will know very well is a truism. And it's interesting that you see brands embrace this kind of silliness and happiness more and more, right? So this is a commercial that I'm sure some of you will be familiar with. I'm doing it for 2 reasons, right? One, I like the ad, and the second one I'll tell you afterwards.
Can you hear me calling out your name? You know that I'm falling and I don't know what to say. I speak a little louder, I'll even shout. You know
It's not quite a scientific QED that 3 said it in an ad, therefore it's true, but happiness does matter. So the second reason that I'm going to do is this is the closest I'm ever going to get to headlining on stage with Fleetwood Mac in Croke Park. Lame joke, which my girlfriend told me not to tell, but I figured I would put it out there anyway. That little donkey obviously represents what a lot of us do in work every day, right? Where you're kind of sitting there going, I'm actually just going to go over into this corner and do something that's not work, and then your boss comes past and you flick back into work mode and then flick back out of it as soon as they're gone. So the way that we make ourselves happy on an ongoing basis is something that brands, the companies, and a whole bunch of different people are starting to engage with for a variety of reasons. So this is another really good book, by the way, Delivering Happiness by Tony Hsieh, who's the CEO of Zappos, who sold to Amazon for about $1 billion a couple of years ago. So Zappos is a company that started out delivering shoes to people, and their whole premise was about making their customers happy by enabling things like super simple returns, sending you out multiple sizes so you could try things on, all sorts of different things that e-commerce companies just simply did not do in the past. They were like, well, you know, the old caveat emptor, you know, screw you, the customer. Zappos flipped it on its head and made themselves a very valuable company, a much loved and much liked company, and as a result sold for a massive amount of money, which is always a nice outcome. So happiness, and this is the definition of happiness that you'll find, or it's at least one definition of it, is a state of well-being characterized by emotions ranging from contentment to intense joy. And here's how happiness impacts on places, right? So happy workplaces are a lot better. Happy workplaces tend to have workers who are more productive. Their customer satisfaction levels tend to be higher. Profit in capital letters, which again, anyone who's familiar with memes will understand, is a lot higher. The number of injuries that they have in their staff on an ongoing basis is lower. Their staff turnover tends to be an awful lot lower as well. People who are happy make more money. So if you're happy when you're aged between 16 and 18, your propensity to make more money and a bigger salary when you're slightly older is far greater. People who are happy, and this is important stuff, right, the health side of things, people who are happy have lower blood pressure. Bizarrely, Ireland has the lowest blood pressure, which, knowing some of my relations, is perhaps they weren't involved in that study. People who are happy feel their lives have meaning, right? So people who responded that they were happy in general, when they were asked if their lives had meaning, 70% of them who felt happy said, yes, my life has meaning, which is a very powerful tool, which is a very powerful emotion, which is a very powerful way for people to feel. So how do we make people happy online? Some of you who studied psychology may be familiar with Maslow's hierarchy of needs. This is a joke version of it, obviously. Maslow did not suggest that cats we're down there with the physiological needs that we have. But seriously, this is what he suggested. So the hierarchy of needs is solved by a lot of things that we do online and a lot of the ways that we engage with games, the ways that we engage with various different platforms. So, I mean, if you look at it, you get esteem, love, belonging, all of these different things from being involved in World of Warcraft, from getting likes on your Facebook page, to getting retweeted on your Twitter feed. People are after autonomy, mastery, and purpose, right? This is another guy who's wrote amazing books called Daniel Pink. Drive is basically all about what motivates people to do things, right? And for people who work in brands and agencies, I can't recommend it highly enough. He's written 2 books, right? One is this, there's a newer one called To Sell is Human, is his new one, which is all about how basically everyone is a salesman, whether you're a composer or a footballer or a marketeer or a brand or anything else. But in the book Drive, he talks about autonomy, mastery, and purpose, right? So people want to feel that they have some sort of sense of purpose, that they have something that they can master, that there's some level of autonomy granted to them, which is why so many people skive off work and play World of Warcraft or play games that they can master over a period of time and play games that have a higher purpose in terms of quests that you participate in. Right, games give us this. I'll give another. Does anyone want to try and pronounce his surname? No one's Hungarian here now? Tough room. So it's Csikszentmihalyi, just in case it ever comes up in a pub quiz that you're at. He wrote a book called Flow. He's a Hungarian psychologist. And this has been widely adopted by game developers now to kind of describe the state that you want people to get into when they're playing a game. So you don't want them to be apathetic, you don't want them to be too relaxed, you want them to kind of be in that state that's in between having a little bit of control and a little bit of fear of losing control. And that's where they call, or that's what they call, flow, right? So when you're so deeply engaged in a game or in an activity that you forget that 6 or 7 hours has gone by and you've kind of missed a train or you've done all of these things. I mean, I do it on the train all the time in London playing stick tennis on my iPhone, right? Real tennis, as you may have guessed, is not my bag. Stick tennis is a little bit closer to maybe not Federer, like Andy Murray level. But I miss my tube stations routinely because I'm playing flick tennis. I get so into it, and I kind of put my head up and realize that I'm somewhere around Highgate when I should have been off 2 stops earlier. So the engagement that people get when they're super engaged in a game or in an activity is huge, and the power that that has is incredible as well. Right? We all want validation. So again, how many times have you posted? And you know, be honest with yourself. You don't have to put your hand up. But how many times have you posted a photograph or a tweet that you thought was, oh my God, this is like the most hilarious thing I've ever put up, and then no one replied to it, right? You were like the proverbial tree falling in a forest, except it wasn't no one was there to hear it. It was that no one cared, right? Again, guilty, right? Or how many times have you put up photographs of your amazing holiday? Because we brag, right? I mean, what Facebook and all of these tools has given us the power to do is brag. Go like, oh, look, I'm in Portugal. You know, like my apartment has a balcony that's slightly larger than your house. You know, please like my photograph to validate this experience. So we need this validation all the time, right? I mean, we're kind of psychologically inclined to want it. And brands who give that to us and companies that give that to us are hugely powerful, which is why the top version there is Reddit, where you can upvote and downvote links. Obviously, Twitter and Facebook have been hugely successful. Right, brands who get fun. How many people follow Betfair Poker? It's the 4th thing you should remember. All right, Betfair Poker and Arena Flowers, and there's 2 or 3 others, are the best accounts on Twitter, right? Betfair Poker doesn't talk about poker, it talks about stuff like this. It's a farcical account, really. I mean, it has absolutely nothing to do with Betfair or poker, but it's hilarious. And every time I see one of their tweets coming up, it kind of makes my day 1% better. And if I ever decide to play poker, I'm going to be predisposed to go to Betfair, right, as a result of them making my life a little bit funnier. Arena Flowers does something similar, and a bunch of brands are trying to kind of capitalize on that now, right? How many people use Foursquare? Fuck, okay. Bad times for Dennis Crowley. So Foursquare allows you to check into locations and say, I am here, and potentially win rewards. So you get goals. You can become the mayor of a location. I'm the mayor of a kebab shop in North London. It's a source of real pride for my parents. You don't get any reward for it. In the States, you maybe get discounts and stuff like this. I have an ongoing feud with another grown man over who retains the mayorship of this kebab shop. It has been going on for over a year. Skipping forward, games obviously provide all of this stuff in spades, right? So does anyone know this game? Has anyone ever played Granny Smith? Granny Smith is amazing, right? It is the best game since Angry Birds, the most addictive game since Angry Birds, and is one that is doing extremely well in the charts. It's just 2 guys in Sweden who came up with it and are doing an absolutely incredible job, right? And it's so engaging. Again, it's one of those ones where you spend endless amounts of time missing train stops or missing bus stops and getting massively into the game, swearing at your significant other when they try and get you to do the washing up or take the bins out when you're kind of halfway through a level. So games understand happiness. They've baked it into absolutely every single thing that they do, and it's a key part of it. And the output of that can be something like this.
Why don't you get out of my way when I want to get... Whoa, there's somebody gone for a bird.
With age comes experience. In this case, video game experience.
I played this once with my aunt that's now 94, and we had a hilarious time.
Celebrating her 86th birthday next month, she's been playing video games for 40 years.
What do you enjoy about it now?
Finding something new in the game, getting on to the next stage.
Do you think it actually keeps you active mentally? Do you think it's helped?
Oh, definitely, yes. Because a lot of them, they're puzzles working out how to do something, when to do it.
Today she plays on this giant 65-inch screen, mainly to help with her eyesight. A far cry.
So we can kind of skip on from that because this is another example of a game familiar, I'm sure, to some parts of the audience, where a company is raised, a UK company, and I was going to say I shit you not, but in this context it's probably not as funny. I kid you not. A UK company just raised $750,000 to build systems like this that make games out of going to the bathroom as a way of delivering ads and making people more engaged and improving aim as well. Games can also have positive effects in the real world. Some of you may have seen this before. That website is worth having a look at, actually. They've got a couple of other examples of how they made driving safer by using games, by doing a whole bunch of different things. I think they ended the video wrong. I'd like to see the dogs going up and down again, but that's maybe just me. But there you've got two examples of 86-year-old Hilda Knott playing Grand Theft Auto, who would have thought, and improving her life by doing it, by being happy, by being engaged, by, you know, and there are tons and tons of studies that show people's memory retention, engagement, awareness, all of these different things are increased by engaging in activities that are fun and that are happy, right? And that's why this has happened. Can anyone guess what this graph shows? And this is like the worst question ever, right? Because there's no context for it. But basically, this graph shows the growth in the use of the word gamification, which is a word, thankfully, the usage of which is now declining again because it is a horrible word, but the concept which it describes is very interesting, where you make things a little bit more fun in a way as a way of engaging people. And I'm conscious of time, so I'll kind of rattle through the rest of the proposals that I have, or the rest of the slides that I have. But this is big business now, right? So you've got all these guys like Pew, Deloitte, and Gartner. Does anyone here work for Gartner? Okay, let's talk about them for a sec. Gartner say 50% of corporate innovation will be gamified by 2015. Gartner said 10 years ago, Apple should sell their hardware business to Dell because it wasn't going to make them any money anymore. So take that with a pinch of salt, Gartner. So what is gamification? It's integrating game dynamics into kind of everyday life in a way to drive participation, right? And it happens all the time. How many people here think they've been a victim of gamification in the last 6 months? Okay, one person, 2, 3. How many people here have a Air Miles card? Only one? Good grief. How many people have a credit card? Okay. So how many people have a credit card that's colored? Okay, leveling up in your credit card is a form of gamification. How many people have gone to a happy hour? Or happy hour is illegal here now? They were illegal when I was in college. Okay, well, happy hours are like a form of gamification, right, of getting you to go drinking at a specific time. Sometimes you don't notice gamification. If you sign up for Twitter now, they try and get you to follow more people by giving you little tasks to do, follow 3 more people. Some of you will be familiar with this. How many people have a 100% complete LinkedIn profile? How many people really wanted it? Yeah, right, it really fucking pissed me off not to have it for a long time. I paid, I did everything, and eventually I got it, and then they took it away. I got it back though, so it's okay. Don't trouble yourself tonight thinking about it. It's okay. All of these guys use gamification to one extent or another, right? So I mean, all of the big companies that you will be aware of in the kind of social media and digital space will use different types of gamification, whether it's Groupon for as long as they still exist, or whether it's Facebook, Zynga for as long as they still exist, a whole bunch of other people. So, and they use all of these different types of tactics, right? So achievements, when you unlock something, a way of marking kind of incremental process that you make, or achieving something impossible, such as becoming the 2-time Black President of the United States of America. Appointment dynamics is what Farmville used to use, so you had to go back at a certain time to water your crops or they died. Happy hour works along the same basis. You've got to show up there at a time to get the drinks at a reasonably cheap rate. Behavioral momentum is the explanation that most people give for playing Farmville. So if you're smart, your brain says to yourself, I've already spent 10 hours playing this game, therefore it can't be shit and I can't be wasting my time. So I should go back and keep playing it, because only smart people would do that. Right? So your behavioral momentum, which is, people will remember the episode of The Simpsons where Homer had the auto dialer just going up and down. People actually behave like that, right? It's a Pavlovian response. Blissful productivity, hat tip to Jane McGonigal, whose TED Talk you should watch. She's amazing. How much time do people spend? I'm really conscious of time, I'm sorry. How much time do people spend playing World of Warcraft on average, the best players? They're not the average player per week in hours. 30, 40, 72? It's 22. It's 22 hours, which is roughly, but that's only the average player, right? So half of the players actually play for longer than that. Blissful productivity is the idea that I talked about earlier, playing stick tennis, where you're doing something that's so incredible and that you enjoy so much that you just kind of continue doing it. We'll skip over the next one because it's not that interesting. Community collaboration is what you do with Groupon, where everyone joins together to work together to get a deal. You tip the deal, it becomes available. You buy it. Countdowns, obviously, you'll be familiar with from eBay, and Secret Escapes, which is a good site. Discovery, get points for doing various different things. This is a great one. Gympact is a company where, how many people joined a gym in January? And how many people didn't go back? So Gympact, you put up 20 quid a month and you're tracked when you go to the gym and when you don't, and your friends who do go to the gym get the money if you don't. So you lose £20 a month as well as your gym fees, and the people who actually go get a financial benefit, right? Which is a really good idea. So all of these, and this is where it all ties back in to Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So all of these kind of different game mechanics make people happy in different ways and satisfy different desires that they have. It can be a bit Orwellian and creepy. This is a company in the US who have gamified waiting staff. So they're given tasks to do, sell a certain amount of this type of wine, sell a certain amount of this type of special, and then they're graded, which is a bit grim, but there are a lot of companies, right? There are a lot of companies working on this for where you work now. Your employers are going to be keeping a very close eye on you in this way. This is slightly grim as well. Brush your teeth and get points. At what point does brushing your teeth stop being about actually brushing them to be clean and start being about, oh, maybe I'll get my sugary drink at the end of it? Lyft is a company, another app you should download where you can check into activities every day. Zombies Run, has anyone got Zombies Run? So everyone should have Zombies Run. A running app where basically you play someone who's been chased by zombies, and when you're being chased by them, you have to run faster. So it encourages you to exercise more, do better, and then you pick up goods and save people along the way with your activity. Coming to the end, I promise, brands are catching on to this now, right? So if anyone uses Path, they'll maybe have seen Nike Plus flash up in the past. You'll see this coming out soon. How many people drive dangerously here? Okay, so there's like 4 honest people here, right? So I imagine 100% of the people who drive here drive dangerously, based on my experience in the past. Telefonica have just funded this company which will track your driving. You'll gain points for driving well, you'll lose points for driving badly, and that will have an impact eventually on how much insurance you pay. And that is coming into effect in the UK very soon, and we'll be also following very shortly thereafter over here. Foursquare, I mentioned before, have a partnership with Amex where you get money back in your card if you use it in a Foursquare venue. Temple Run are partnering up with people. Does anyone play Temple Run? Temple Run is a really good game, really engaging game. They've got partnerships coming out their ears now with Disney. This is the latest one for the new Oz movie that's coming out. And what Disney are doing, and what all of these guys, and quick plug for Keep, where I used to work, are doing is they're tapping into these moments of happiness, right? These moments that matter in people's everyday lives, whether it's completing a workout and feeling amazing, whether it's winning Wimbledon on your crappy iPhone 5 on the tube on the way home, whether it's getting 50 likes for your photograph on Instagram. All of these moments really, really matter. And it's interesting. This is probably one of the most watched videos, and I'll leave you with this. It was on the internet in the last while, and it's every single bit of it about moments and moments of happiness.
Okay, Glass, record a video.
This is it. We're on in 2 minutes.
Okay, Glass, hang out with the Flying Club.
Google photos of tiger heads.
You ready? You ready?
Right there. Okay, Glass, take a picture.
Stay delicious and time. Arrow.
Google jellyfish.
So by the time I come back here next year, I expect those to be relatively mainstream, which is a terrifying thought. So happiness matters, moments matter. It's not that hard to do this stuff. You just need to be smart about it. Thank you very much for your attention. Apologies for running over to everyone else. Find me on Twitter if you want and say hello afterwards. Cheers. Thank you.